Yes, very good afternoon students, and welcome back to the chapter number 6, that is molecular basis of inheritance. Okay, and as we have seen in our previous videos, talking about the DNA, the structure of the DNA, then talking about the RNA, DNA versus RNA, what are the properties the genetic material should have, okay, and what is the basic structure of DNA and who proposed that structure of DNA. As we all already know that the structure of the DNA, it was proposed by Watson and Crick. So, as they had proposed the the double stranded helical structure of the DNA model, simultaneously they also proposed that this DNA molecule, it is semi-conservative in nature. Clear? So, when we are dealing with what is semi-conservative nature of the DNA, we should first know what is replication. So, according to this replication process, when both the strands of the DNA, they get separated from each other. How are they going to get separated? I will let you all know in the upcoming video, when I am going to just tell you all about the process of replication. So, I am just coming on that when the double stranded DNA, when the two strands of the DNA, they get separated from each other, then what happens, that on each strand, that is each strand, it acts as the template strand, and on each strand a new DNA coding strand is synthesized. Thus what happens over here, that due to replication, two more strands have been formed, that is DNA, it has made up its own multiple copies, that is from one DNA molecule two DNA molecules have been synthesized. But these two DNA molecules which newly have been synthesized, these newly synthesized DNA molecules, they contain one strand as the old parental strand and the other strand as the newly synthesized strand. Okay, hence we can say that it is semi-conservative in nature. Semi-conservative means from the DNA molecule, one of the strand is from the parental generation. Okay, that is, it is the old strand, and the other one is the new strand. That is, one strand which is having which is the old strand, it is having the genetic information as it was stored in its parental form. Getting my words? Thus we can say that DNA, it is semi-conservative in nature, and hence this was proposed by Watson and Crick. This semi-conservative nature of DNA, it was explained by Stihel and Messelson and Stihel. So, in their experiment, Messelson and Stihel, this is a very important experiment. Very a time it is asked in the board examination. Clear? This is asked along with the diagram. So, kindly have a peep on the diagram. Clear? If any of the queries are there, you can ask me whenever we are going to have the live stream classes. Clear? So, according to Messelson and Stihel, they had taken for their experimental work to justify the semi-conservative nature of DNA. What they had done, they had chosen E. coli, that is Escherichia coli, as the experimental model. And what have they done? They have grown this Escherichia coli in a culture medium containing 15NH4Cl as the only source of nitrogen. Clear? For a couple of generation. This 15NH4Cl, it is a heavy isotope of nitrogen. It is not the radioactive isotope, but it is the heavy isotope of nitrogen. And with this heavy isotope of nitrogen, the culture was done for a couple of generation, and this was the only source of nitrogen. Clear? There was no other source of nitrogen in the culture medium. So, after continuing the culture for a couple of generation, what happened? This 15N isotope of nitrogen, it got incorporated into the DNA of the E. coli. Now, what was done? This E. coli was again which was containing the 15NH4Cl radioactive isotope, 15NH4Cl isotope of nitrogen. This was grown in a culture medium containing 14NH4Cl as a source of nitrogen. Clear? And after culturing it, then what was done? That after 20 minutes, the DNA was E. coli was taken out, and the various biomolecules, they were studied. Not the various biomolecules, the DNA basically was separated out. It was separated, and the separation was done with the help of centrifugation method. The centrifugation method, basically, centrifugation method. In this centrifugation method, cesium chloride was used as a density gradient, and the DNA that was observed over here, it was in the form of the hybrid DNA. That is, the DNA that it contained both the 14N DNA as well as the 15N DNA. So it was a mixture of both the type of the isotopes of DNA, both for 15N as well as 14N DNA. Clear? So now what was done, that after again 40 minutes, again the DNA was extracted from the culture medium, and again centrifugation was done in the cesium chloride centrifugation density gradients. So now what was observed, that though the DNA helices were present separately, the light DNA, that is the 14N DNA, was found to be separately situated, as well as the heavy isotope of the DNA was also found to be separately situated. Thus this confirms the semi-conservative nature of DNA. This is the very good example. I have given you the diagram over here. So here it is shown that it contains the 15N DNA. So this was, as we have already told, that initially the E. coli was grown in a culture medium containing 15N DNA as the only source of nitrogen, and after culturing it for a couple of generations, so that the 15N isotope can be easily incorporated into the DNA molecule. This was then again cultured in a culture medium containing the 14N DNA, 14N NH4Cl as the only source of nitrogen. So after 20 minutes, why we are taking 20 minutes time gaps? We are just taking 20 minutes time gaps because E. coli, it divides after every 20 minutes. Clear? So what happened over here, that after 20 minutes, when we extracted the DNA helices as they were present in the helical forms, what we got the hybrid form. This is the hybrid form of the DNA. Clear? Hybrid form means it is the intermixed form of the DNA. So what we observe over here, that it is the hybrid DNA containing both the strands of 14N 14N DNA as well as the 15N DNA. So it was the hybrid form. Again, when this was grown in the culture medium of this was grown in the culture medium, and again after culturing them for a couple of generations, when again the DNA was extracted and the helices were studied, what was observed, that both the light these were separated by using the centrifugation technique in cesium chloride density gradient. What was observed, that both the light density DNA and the heavy density DNA, they were separated very easily. Means they could be separated very easily. And here you can see it over here, that this is the 14N DNA, this is the 15N DNA, and this is the 15N DNA. So here with this example, you can also depict this by this one of this molecule, that it is containing the 15N DNA. Then in the very first generation, we get the hybrid form, that is the 14N and the 15N DNA, and in the next one we get both, that is the 14N and the 15N separately. So this is how Michelson and Stahel, they have justified the statement of Watson and Crick that DNA is semi-conservative in nature. Clear? So with this we stop up with the experiment that was conducted by Michelson and Stahel, that it is that DNA molecule is semi-conservative in nature, and it could be very well explained by the experiment on E. coli. Clear? This is a very important experiment, and we have to mug it up or cram it up or whatever you want to do it, but this is very often asked in the examination, in the board examination. Clear? Now further, when we are going to talk about the replication process, when we are talking about the replication process, replication, as I said you all, that replication is a complicated process because DNA is double stranded structure, and since it is a double stranded structure plus it is helically coiled, therefore it becomes very much important to open up the coils and then to separate the two strands of the DNA, and in doing so, such things, a large amount of the a large amount of not large amount of a large number of enzymes, they are utilized in this very process. So here when we are talking about this, as you all know that the DNA, it is present in this form: A double bond T, T double bond A, G triple bond C, C triple bond G, G triple bond C, T double bond A double bond T, T double bond A. Here this is 3' and this is 5' and this is 5' and this is 3' and. Clear? Now replication should be initiated. When replication starts up, as I told you all, there are a number of enzymes that are involved in this very process. So the very first enzyme that is involved in this process is the DNA helicases. This helicases enzyme, as the word is helicases, this DNA helicases enzyme, it untwines the helical coils of the DNA so that the DNA can be obtained in a straight form or a straight pattern. Both the DNA helicases as well as DNA unwindases. Okay, DNA helicases and DNA unwindases. So due to this, what happens? The DNA molecule now becomes such sort of a linear molecule. It becomes a straight molecule. A double bond T, T double bond A, G triple bond C, C triple bond G, T double bond A double bond T, and so on. So what happens over here, that due to the action of DNA helicases, the helical coils of the DNA has been opened up, and due to DNA unwindases, what happened, that these hydrogen bonds that are present between the nitrogenous bases, they starts breaking up in a zipper like fashion. As you can see that the zip keeps on opening. It doesn't open up at an instant, but it gradually opens up. So you can see a sort of a replication fork. So what is a replication fork? A replication fork is such type of a structure. This is 5' and this is 3' and this is 5' and this is 3' and here it is A double bond T, T double bond A, G triple bond C, C, then T, then A, here it is G, A, and then it is T. Clear? This sort of a structure that has been formed, it is known as the replication fork. Clear? Now, when we are talking about the replication fork, again certain sorts of the enzymes are required for the DNA strands to be synthesized on these separate separated DNA strands. These strands now act as the template strands. The separated DNA strands, they now act as the template strands. So now what happens over here, that now what happens, that one more enzyme which is known as DNA dependent DNA polymerases, it initiates the polymerization of the nucleotides on this DNA strand, DNA template strand. Clear? So what happens over here, that at the 3' end, one RNA primer comes and gets attached over here at the 3' end, and with the help of the enzyme DNA dependent RNA polymerase enzyme, what happens, the nitrogenous bases, they come and get aligned up over here. That is, we can see that here it is going to have T, here it is going to have A, here it is going to have G. Okay, so this continues in a continuous sequence, but this continuous sequence can be observed only on the template strand which is running from the 3' end to the 5' end. This type of the strand which polymerizes continuously is known as the continuous strand. Here, another strand which is running from 5' to 3' direction. Here, the RNA RNA primer, separate RNA primers, they are required for formation of the polynucleotide chain. Clear? As the strand that is formed over here, it is not a continuous strand, but it is a discontinuous strand. This is the discontinuous strand. Clear? And what happens over here? That this strand, it runs from this direction to this direction. Clear? And these small fragments, these are said to be the Okazaki fragments. These are said to be the Okazaki fragments. These are not continuous fragments. This is not a continuous strand, but it is present in the form of small fragments. Now what happens that to make it a continuous strand, again certain type of the enzymes are required, and these enzymes, they are said to be the DNA ligases. Clear? That is, after the formation of this of these Okazaki fragments, this DNA ligases, it does what? It joins up these Okazaki fragments so that a continuous strand can be obtained on the 5' to 3' strand of the template DNA. Clear? Now here, so in this manner the replication fork proceeds up. After the formation of the polynucleotide chain, again the hydrogen bond appears between the nitrogenous bases, and what we see that from this to complete complete new DNA molecules have been obtained from a single DNA molecule. Clear? Again, when we are talking about the replication fork does not initiate on its own at any place. It has to be provided with certain regions from where the replication could start, and these regions, they are known as the origin of replication, from where the replication starts in a DNA molecule. Basically, in eukaryotes, it occurs in the S phase of the cell cycle. So here I was saying that from a single DNA molecule, two new DNA molecules have been obtained, and here in both the DNA molecules, both the newly synthesized DNA molecule, one of the DNA strand, it acts as the old parental strand, and the other strands acts as the newly formed strand. Again in this is the old parental strand, and here it is the new strand. So from this we can say that DNA, it is semi-conservative in nature. This very process, it explains the semi-conservative nature of DNA. So with this we end up with the topic, that is DNA replication. Now in my next video I am just going to talk about the other processes of the DNA molecule. Till then, thank you.